this is Maria, and in this video I'm going to spend a few minutes showing you how you can be tracking the funds for your PPP loan. So as you might know, the window has now closed for the PPP loan applications, so a lot of you have the funds that have already been deposited into your account, or you at least have filled out the loan paperwork and you're waiting for those funds to come through. So in this quick video, I want to share with you a way that you can track those PPP expenses so that when it comes time to go to your bank and prove how the funds have been spent, that it's very easy for you to pull this information out. So what you're looking at is actually a sample company, and this is using QuickBooks Online accounting software. So you might use Xero, or you might use FreshBooks or something else, but this can be done with a lot of different accounting platforms. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on a feature called classes. And so depending on the subscription level of QuickBooks Online that you have, you may or may not have this feature. It's definitely in the Plus and Advanced versions of QuickBooks Online, so definitely check your subscription level. I'm going to show you actually how you'll know. So we're going to go to the Settings area and then select Account and Settings under the company. So this first step is you want to set up the class feature itself, and then we're going to actually create a class for tracking these expenses. So in the account and settings area, you're going to see these 5 areas on the right: company, usage, sales, expenses, and advanced. So you want to click on the advanced tab, and then you're going to see this section. If you don't see this, by the way, then that is an indicator that you do not have the subscription level that's needed to turn this feature on, or you don't have the feature basically to turn on. So it's called categories, and you're able to track classes and locations. So you'll see here in the sample company that both of these trackings are turned off. So I'm going to edit in this section. I'm going to turn on the class feature by selecting the green. This is something that you can select if you want QuickBooks to warn you if you have a line item that does not have a class assigned. I would not check that box because a lot of expenses you have for your business are not going to be like PPP eligible. There's only going to be payroll and rent and utility expenses that can be used, a couple other categories. So I would not check that box, and then just click Save. All right, and then at the bottom we're going to click Done. All right, so now we actually have the feature set up. Now let's create a class to designate these expenses. So when this refreshes, you'll go back and see your dashboard again. Eventually, it's coming up here. So what we're going to do now is go back to the same area, the gear icon at the upper right hand corner, and now we're going to go to the lists area and select all lists. So you might be familiar with the different lists that exist in accounting software, such as your chart of accounts, your products and services list, and so one of those lists that we've now enabled is the class list. So if you'll select classes, you'll notice here that it is completely blank. And in this version of QuickBooks, it says that I have 40 classes that I can use in my plan. So let's do this. It's very simple to do. You're just going to click on New, and you're going to name the class PPP Expenses. If you want to create subclasses, for example, if you want to have a subclass for rent, and a subclass for utilities, and a subclass for payroll, you can do that, but it's really not necessary to do that. So I'm just going to click Save. And so now I have the class of PPP expenses in QuickBooks. So let's actually take a look at how this would work just on a day-to-day basis. So let's say that I need to pay rent in the building that I am utilizing. So I'm going to go over here to expenses, and I'm going to go to vendors. And I'm going to pay this bill. Let's refresh this so it will go to the vendor list. All right, so we have the vendor list, and I'm actually just going to create a new vendor here because I don't have a renter in here. So let's say that this is to Matt Jones, and he's the owner of the property that we rent, and so we're just going to leave it as Matt Jones and click Save. So now I'm going to go down to Matt, and I'm going to create, in this case, an expense because I want to go ahead and pay this today to him. So I'm going to pay from the checking account, payment date, all of that stuff is exactly the way that it always has been with the expense, with the exception of one thing. So let's go in and say the category is rent or lease, and this is going to be for August 2020 rent, and the amount of the rent is $1,500. So you'll notice on the very right hand side of the screen that you now have a new column called class. So what you'll want to do is hit your drop down and select PPP expenses for your rent, and then you just simply hit save and close. So obviously, depending on how you're going to write him a check or you're going to direct deposit the funds. But the point being is that anytime you have from now on any payroll or rent or mortgage interest, all of those eligible expenses from the PPP funds, you can now tag them by the use of the class feature. And so as you get closer, when your bank opens up and you start to apply for loan forgiveness, then you can go in and run a report that is a profit and loss by class report, and then you can show them easily, the loan amount was $15,000 and I used, $12,000 of the money for PPP eligible expenses, and so you can easily show them that, and then they can apply that forgiveness amount to your loan. So any questions, please feel free to reach out to us here at Simplified Partners. We're more than happy to help you set up your liability for this loan and also to help you track the expenses. So thanks.